I've been kicked out of my near every bar around. I've been locked up for driving 120 through town. I've been shot at and cut with a knife, messing around with another man's wife. But other than that, we ain't nothing, just good old boys. Threw my boss out the window and got fired for my last job. I wired a city truck and turned it over in the mayor's yard. Beat my brother-in-law half to death. Lost $20 on his football bet. But other than that, we ain't nothing, just good old boys. Good old boys, we're all the same. Ain't no way we'll ever change. Ain't no harm by the things we do, or the trouble that we get into. Other than a while, every once in a while, we can't.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Wade and Carter Show. Ash, the commander here.
Howdy.
In Cabo, missing all the excitement.
I think he does this on purpose. He sees an opportunity to head out when the weather's going to get bad. And
can't blame him, can you?
No, not really.
Not really, no. There's the commander.
Howdy.
Howdy to the people, everybody. There you go. All right. Enough of that.
Enough of that. We don't need to see that garbage.
Good morning, everybody. Greg Garcia, Judge Posey, Scott Tomko on the podium this morning. Let's see. Wade and Carter weather brought to you by the great folks at AT Deerlam Hay Feed and Ranch Services. For all you need, there's Deerlam Feed. 73 degrees, heading to a high today of only 86, according to my app. I'm going to bang it here like Scott Bakula used to do, just to make sure it's working properly. But yeah, that's what it says. 86 for the high. Slight chance of rain today. Actually, we're only going to see highs in the 80s for the next couple of days as I peek through the extended forecast. So that's interesting.
We're finally getting our spring.
Yeah, we might finally be
like.
getting the spring. Yeah, cloudy, sunshine today, slight winds, and looking at things tonight, low of 72, slight winds again, and mostly clear skies. So not looking like we're going to see too much in the way of precipitation. So decent day. If you've got an extra day off, might be time to go hit the golf course or have some fun this afternoon. Patrick Strauss checking in. Rena Scherer, good morning. Mark Kurtz, Bobby Leister, Lisa Poole, Linda Chris, David Glass, Junior Samples, Daniel Wade White, Will Vincent, Marvin Mickish, Monty Howard, Bobby Sparkman, Jordan Glass, Jared McCrugan, Stephanie Conti, Funky Trey Molina. Prayers going out to everybody in the Hill Country this morning.
Absolutely.
Man, this weighed on me all weekend.
Yeah.
It was hard to have an enjoyable weekend. It really was.
Mm-hmm.
The
pictures are just so devastating.
Yeah. And I know people that are up there helping in the search and rescue. So
Breitbart this morning had an interesting thing he said, and it got me thinking, and I love your thoughts on this. But he said every time he saw photos of it this weekend, he got to the point that it was just too hard to watch. He said, there's some people who just might have totally missed it, and there's some people who were drawn to that. And I kind of agreed with him. I was like, you just see, kids in a tree or the water taking over the area or whatever, and you're just like, I don't know if I can even just look at it. You get to the point that you just almost have to scroll by it on social media. I don't know how you feel, but it was almost too much to try to take it all in.
CNN reporting that the death toll has climbed to 82 this morning. Lots of people still missing, including at least 28 children. Camp Mystic, the one that everybody seems to be aware of.
Right.
But here's the thing. A lot of times these tragedies, they don't hit home.
Right.
I don't know anybody who doesn't know somebody that has a tie to the camps up there, hasn't been to the Hill Country, hasn't been in that area. But most importantly, almost everybody that I know on social media knows somebody that's been directly impacted by this. I've got a former coworker whose husband's parents are missing. His brother's missing. His brother's kids are missing along with their daughter. And that's kind of when it hit home for me was, it's in the hill country, it's devastating. And then all of a sudden you got people on social media frantic because they haven't heard from loved ones that went up to the hill country
right
for the July 4th weekend. And that's where I think things are going to,
like we just don't know yet.
No. And I think that's the thing. I think there's going to be people still missing that we don't know are missing because they didn't tell anybody they were going up to the hill country this weekend.
Right.
Or they didn't leave an emergency contact number somewhere. So I mean, these numbers I think are going to get worse. Brent Anderson checking in. I think he was up there this weekend doing some work. Samaritan's Purse taking donations. There's the other cautionary tale, folks, is really, really be careful of who you're giving your money to.
Right. Absolutely.
There's a lot of churches that are taking donations to get stuff up there. But there's a lot of online scams that are happening now, and just be careful.
And check out these different nonprofits have places online that you can look at how much they actually give of the money you're giving. Some of them have huge overhead. The Red Cross got in trouble with this a few years ago because they had like a 50% intake of the money for overhead that people were given. And so,
and there are some that are lower than that. I mean, industry standard, 25 to 30%.
Right.
With nonprofits. And that's understandable.
Sure.
Scott Snow checking in, Stuart Martin, Sherry Jacobs, James Kurth, Randy Langston, Jarrett McCrugan. But yeah, just complete devastation. And the Monday morning quarterbacking, there'll be time for that, folks. You listen, and there were, and thankfully to a couple of meteorologists and the Associated Press, who initially they backtracked. They didn't really quite give an apology, but initially they were running, and the New York Times is running one of these stories too, how Trump's National Weather Service cuts could have impacted. Could have. See, that's the key phrase with this stuff. Could have. Or might have played a role in what happened in the hill country. Those are the words they use to lure you in, even though they're really subjective. How Trump's cuts to the National Weather Service could have or might have.
Right.
There's no definitive proof of it. In fact, I got into this with a couple of people online, and I had to stop because it was ruining my weekend as much as it wasn't already ruined anyway because of the devastation. And it was just hard to really not think about those that were impacted and those who lost kids. I can't even imagine that as a dad and a grandfather. But if you really wanted to figure out, think about when the National Weather Service office in Victoria was closed. Back in either the Bush or early in the Obama administration. I can't remember which one. It was either W or the Obama administration. So but I think if there was any, and yeah, we've had 20 years or whatever to try to adjust to that and not having manned weather stations in smaller locales. But if you really want to play that game, that's probably where you could trace it back to where it probably had a bigger impact. Mm-hmm. When Kerrville no longer has a manned weather station.
Right.
But the Associated Press had to recant or post another story saying, oh, no, there were 5 people in the Austin Weather Service, which is their typical staffing level for weather like this. And I took screenshots of all this stuff, and I'm gonna bring them up here because I wanted to kind of go through the river levels at various places. I mean, it went from 1.6 feet at 3:15 on July 4th. And what's the name of the town where it wasn't Kerrville, but it was this? Is it
Hope or
Hope? Horn?
Horn?
Yeah.
I'm looking right now.
I appreciate that because I can't.
Right.
I don't. It's not showing the name of the town on my screenshot now. I thought I had it. Hunt. Thank you, Scott Tomko. I knew.
I was almost there.
Yeah. I've never been there.
I don't think it's very big from the sound of it.
So the river at 3:15, the Guadalupe at Hunt, was at 1.64 feet, flowing at 243 cubic feet per second. By 4:45, it was at 23 feet, flowing at 94,000 cubic feet per second.
That's crazy.
And it hit that peak within about 45 minutes. And then by Sunday, it was down again. I mean, there was still a lot. I mean, it was over the banks and everything else, but it wasn't there. But even at 12:15 in the morning on July 4th, just to give you an idea of the scope of this, the river was at less than half a foot deep in Hunt and was flowing at 3 cubic feet per second. 12:15 in the morning, about the time actually before the first flood warning went out. Flood watches were issued earlier in the day by the National Weather Service. But I think the most graphic or the highest amount of rainfall in the afternoon when that flood watch, not the warning, the flood watch was first issued was 1 to 2 inches locally, 5 to 7 inches are possible. We're now finding out 2 to 3 days later, the 12 inches or more in some places. And cell service doesn't work up there. That's kind of the beauty of it.
Right.
Right? I loved going up to the hill country because my cell phone didn't work. You actually got to get away. And I don't know if the camp still had landlines. We can get into some of that. But at 12:15 in the morning on July 4th, the river was less than half a foot deep, flowing at 3 cubic feet per second. At 2:45 in the morning, it was only 1.25 foot deep and flowing at 75 cubic feet per second. At 3:15, it was up to 243 cubic feet per second and 1.64 feet. So it had started its rise at that point. And by 4:45, it was up to 23.4 feet, 94,000, almost 95,000 cubic feet per second. And I would think that's probably the more telling number is that cubic feet per second and how fast it's flowing. But my Rocks for Jocks class paid off in spades over the weekend, learning that the limestone, because anyone who took that limestone just doesn't. I mean, it's a hard bed. And the people trying to second guess this. Well, there should have been sirens up and down the river valley. Well, if that was the case, the sirens would be going off all the time when it rains there. It's tragic. If you have the ability, go help. They need people. I mean, the terrible story of hearing about two sisters that were found 15 miles away from the camp, downstream, still holding hands.
Was that the sisters?
There were two sisters.
Sisters, yeah.
And the dad was in the house just up the hill. Neighbors had lent him their house because they weren't going to be there because they had more family coming for the weekend and didn't have a big enough place to put them all. So they let the kids go down there with the grandparents. That house gets washed away. Dad's and mom are up on the hill. Tried to get there, couldn't. The water was too much too quickly. Says he couldn't even hear the water in the house. And when he stepped out of the bed, the floor was soaking wet because the rain was so loud. Thank you, Stephanie Miller. So the Monday morning quarterbacking needs to stop. Yeah, and then the Ricky King and then all the cloud seeding garbage. I mean, again, thank you to the meteorologists that talked about this as well. Cloud seeding only works if there is a cloud, and it ain't going to dump 1.8 trillion gallons of water or whatever they figured the number was. At that point, right?
Right.
And the sad thing is there's more rain coming. There's flood watches in effect through today, I believe, up that way.
I've seen some warnings for locally here once the river comes down with all the water. But
yeah, the Guadalupe at Bloomington, and that's typical. Anybody who's lived here long enough knows that's what happens. I haven't seen anything for the city of Victoria as of yet. I know New Braunfels over the weekend a lot of businesses closed there because a bridge was closed and rivers or roads were getting water on them up that way. But I mean, 87 was the last time something like this I heard where 10 kids had died.
Right.
Not sure if it was the same camp.
I think I heard it was down the road a few miles, so I don't think it was the same one.
But Kathleen Leininger, sorry for what your family went through. Monica Joe says we could have the most advanced technology. Mother Nature will always be unpredictable. And it is. And I mean, think about the timing of this. July 4th weekend, busiest weekend, 700 kids at that camp, something like that. There's another thing too. Oh, they should have had the buses ready to get those kids out of there. Anybody go to camp? When I went to camp, the buses dropped you off. The buses didn't stay there because there was no place to park the buses. And the buses were from bigger cities. They had to get back to their bus barns and shelters.
Right.
Right. There might have been a bus or two there to take kids off on day excursions.
You weren't moving 750 people, though.
Not until the last day of camp, right? But then those buses came back to get the kids, or the parents. Some of the parents might have picked them up. I don't know. But what does a bus hold? 50 kids?
Maybe.
35?
Yeah.
You're talking 20, 25 buses that have to sit there. What if you had some special needs kids or something? I'm not saying that there, but how do you keep all those buses? I mean, there's no way to keep all those buses there. And then it's small roads in, small roads out.
Well, I'm trying to get all those people up and dressed and out in just a matter of a couple of moments.
Yeah, 45 minutes.
What was it, 3:30 in the morning or something? Ooh, somebody important's calling in.
Hey, good morning.
That hurts.
Hey, good morning.
Hey, good morning. You got me?
Yeah, we got you now.
Yeah, it's only 5:15 here, and this whole situation at Camp Mystic and the Kerrville Hunt Ingram area has just been on my heart all weekend. And I know it's the top story, and I know it's news, but I think you just have to take a minute and just reflect on all the families and all the hurt. And it's not a political issue at all. It is a tragedy that there are folks that are saying, Doge and Trump cut NOAA, and wouldn't it have been nice if they'd have had the money to predict this? And I have to tell you, as somebody who was at Garner State Park in June of '96, when the park ranger came in and said, "Hey, we've got some flash flooding that's going to occur, and you've got about 2.5 hours to get up to higher ground." That man came back in about 15 minutes and said, "Hey, you got about 30 minutes to get up there." And Kendall was 6 months old at the time, and my mom and dad and I took the baby to a hotel in Uvalde. And within a half hour, the majority of the RVs that were in the Garner State Park were just being washed down the Frio River. And there's no model to predict these. They call them rain bombs. And unfortunately for the Kerrville area, and we're all guilty of it as well, in the Kerrville area, they had a 12-hour earlier flash flood warning. And 3 hours before this happened, that Hunt Ingram area was warned that there was a flash flood warning. But they just, like everybody else, I mean, how many times do you see in Victoria, Texas, there's a flash flood warning in effect, and we get in the car and go to Walmart? It's not that it got ignored, it's that you just can't anticipate this level of devastation. I reached out yesterday and asked, is there anything that we, meaning me, you, the show, and our audience, is there anything we can do at a fairly high level? And was told, just pray. We have all the resources we need. So the people that are wanting to politicize this and say that somehow President Trump let them down, and if Biden was president, this wouldn't have happened, they're just fools and opportunists. And the thing to look forward to is trying to help this area heal, because this is probably, arguably, the biggest mass disaster, natural disaster in Texas in when? Since
Our lifetimes?
For sure, in our lifetimes. So I just wanted to pass along to our crew the confidence that, there was no way to prevent this. There was nothing you could really do to accurately predict this. And had you accurately predicted it, would you have ever had the foresight to predict this?
Yeah.
I mean, they had another huge wall of water come through that area again yesterday.
James Kerr says since 1987, but it wasn't this tragic.
No, and I have confirmed that Canyon Lake should hold almost all of this water.
Yeah.
And there's still a part of me that says that the chain of lakes down below, like McQueenie and whatever the other couple of lakes are right there, that they probably should start releasing some water and let it out, and let our river in Victoria, let it rise. Don't let it flood, but let it rise and make room in case something else were to happen you wouldn't have a Quero 97 or whatever near that was type issue. But I don't know. I mean, there's engineers that do that, but there's a part of me that says I'd love to have a place for a little bit of canyon to go if things got bad.
Yeah, and you're looking at, I'm looking at the radar right now, that Fredericksburg area north of Kerrville, it's all green and yellow and red and orange right now. So,
there's to say that, well, Canyon will only be 80% full after this, and I made that number up. I think there might be some sense in preserving some capacity at Canyon while you can.
yeah,
Send some of the water on downstream.
Well, and there's a front coming pushing down through Kansas right now that'll probably, it looks like there's some storms that are currently in Amarillo heading to Lubbock that are probably going to head down that way as well. So there's going to be more. There's going to be more rain coming, and who knows where that's going to hit. But that just means, the ground's already saturated. Ricky King asked how many people turn their phones off or the emergency warnings on their phone. I'm not sure that's going to, where that was, it would have made a difference because of the lack of cell phone service there. I'm not sure people would have got the warnings anyway. But it's just, I've been hearing conflicting reports. They do need people to help with debris removal and everything.
There's room for volunteers.
Yeah. But, I know Parkway's got a supply drive and it was pretty well stocked yesterday. But the scope of this, because so many people there were from out of the area. You look at the list of the kids that were missing. Houston, Dallas, very few of them from there. Mm-hmm. And, from what I saw from local folks on Facebook, their kids weren't going for another couple of weeks. So this area wasn't impacted regionally as much because some of our kids aren't there yet.
It's a terrible deal.
Yeah, no, it really is.
Well, you hear people, and I can't say it wouldn't have happened, politically the other way, but you do read, if you read like I do, you see the people that say, well, MAGA got what they voted for.
Yeah, those people are just idiots. I hadn't even got into the politicization of this thing.
No, and it's not the time for it, but just. No. People, I did read one the other day that somebody just said, where is God in all this? And I always come back to the idea that God is still sitting on the same throne he was on when he let mere man crucify his only son. He is sovereign God and he's in control, and bad things happen at times just so we turn to him. But I don't look at this as some kind of curse upon Texas, or there's so many ways to politicize and romanticize and religiousize. This is nature at its most stark. This is no different than a hurricane coming into Port O'Connor and you happen to live right on the water. This is what happens when you put a camp and a bunch of children right on the riverbed. Sometimes bad things happen.
And if this would have happened in May, the buildings would have washed away. That was it. Summer camp would have been ruined for a bunch of kids.
That's right.
Because they wouldn't have had a place to go. If this would have happened in October, same thing. Nobody's there.
Yep. Wrong place, wrong time.
Judge Posey says, I've spent days in emergency ops center. People have no idea how many sources you're getting information from and how different the information is. We and first responders react the best we can with plenty of advice. There's no room for second guessing, but it certainly won't stop. Brent is absolutely correct. Again, I didn't want to read that, but I felt I had to.
Well, I wanted to be just supportive of Victoria today. I wanted to call you and tell you I love you guys, and it's put a damper on the weekend for sure. And just stay united, and let's I'm going to hang up and listen because I love the program, but let's just talk later this week.
Absolutely.
Be well,
Travel
folks.
safe. Say hi to your mom and everybody else.
Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, Brent.
Bye-bye.
Brent and Cabo. Appreciate him checking in. Let's take our first break. Let's do that real quick, and then we'll get into a little bit more on this as well, because there's a couple areas that I haven't managed to dive into yet. Palace Bingo, where friends meet friends. The 24th of this month is our next Wade and Carter Bingo night. Come on out, have a great time. We always do. There's always a winner or two. We might even have special prizes for those Wade and Carter folks that listen and show up and win. So there you go. The chopping block post July 4th. They're going to have all your meats on sale, ready to go, because the barbecuing and the grilling doesn't stop, because July 4th is come and gone. You're going to want to eat this week too. So get to the chopping block today. White Trash Services for all your trash collection needs in Victoria County and the contiguous counties. You need a roll off, you need a dumpster, you need weekly trash service. White Trash Services has you covered. Chesnick Furniture Company. Go see Bobby Leon today. He can get you furniture for any room in your home. Chesnick and Love makes your house a home. You just always do better at Chesnick. Asset Offer and assetoffer.com. Looking for a brand new vehicle? Check out Asset Offer. Today is going to be a beautiful day to walk the lot. Don't just sit on your couch when it's only going to be 88 degrees today for the high. Get out there, walk the lot, see what vehicles are there. Get yourself a brand new Chevrolet, Mitsubishi, or a gently pre-owned vehicle. They'll also service any make or model. Stop them by Asset Offer right there on the Navarro Motor Mile, just down the road from Higher Prices. And speaking of Navarro, the Dollar Floor Store on Navarro as well. They are the floor trader, locally owned and operated. 3 locations now in Texas. Texas-owned business, started in College Station and now expanding into Victoria, one of the 3 locations. 99 cents a square foot. Quality flooring. That's where prices start. Some even lower if you catch them on the right day. This is all brand name stuff, folks. This isn't discount stuff that fell out of the back of a wagon somewhere. This is all lots that they have purchased in mass quantities to pass the savings on to you. They don't have fancy showrooms because they don't need fancy showrooms. They just want you to come in and buy all their flooring, backsplashes, and anything related. As Junior can tell you, they've got some hard to find grout there that nobody else in town will carry as well. So get to the Dollar Floor Store today. Go see Tamara. She'll help you out with all that you need at the Dollar Floor Store. Well, Franklin, good morning. Torrin Bales checking in. Greg Garcia says, we live in a fallen world. Disasters happen. That's why we need the Lord 24/7. Ricky King says he worked at VF Victoria Fire Department during the flood of 98. Monica Jost, great turnout for Gary Moses night at the Generals game last night. There's Ryan Hopping. Good morning. Kathleen Leininger says the rescuers are doing like Texans do. They're out in full force looking, searching, doing God's work when the family was able to finally evacuate. The number of volunteers coming up the mountain was huge. The other thing of note is that the road surface in many places was washed away. The only thing to drive on was dirt and mud. Yeah, I've noticed a few people, if you're going up there, they're asking you to basically to bring out, don't go up there in your Honda Civic. You really need a truck with 4-wheel drive capacity to get in and out of there, and also probably to help with hauling people and other things.
What if your Honda Civic has 6 wheels on it?
Then maybe.
Okay. I'm just looking for my options.
I know you're looking. You also retrofitted 6-wheel drive onto that thing. It's more, it's a Civic on a John Deere Gator chassis.
That's exactly right. Is that not the same?
Pretty much. But yeah, Brent touched on this when he called in. The politicization of this thing is even worse than the second guessing. And for the people that are blaming Trump or telling that MAGA idiots got what they deserved, taxpayers in Kerrville didn't want to spend money on a early warning system, flash flood warning system, so they got what they deserved. Get the hell out of here. Seriously. That just disgusts me.
Well, and that doesn't help anyone, right?
Doesn't help anyone, inflames people, but
Right.
It just shows you where these people are. They don't have the compassion they claim to have. They're so fueled with hatred and Trump derangement syndrome that's where they go to. They have no compassion for their fellow human beings. They have no compassion for their neighbors and their fellow Texans. And I'm going to lump a bunch of them together, but that's where the leftists are right now. They don't care. They are so consumed by political hatred and politics. They've lost their way, folks. And to see these posts, it's just sickening. A pediatrician, I saw a pediatrician posting something similar. Not from here, somewhere in Texas, I believe. B. Small says it's infuriating. Yeah, U.S. Democratic Socialists on Facebook. Catastrophic floods in Kerr County, Texas, which 76% voted for Trump. Thoughts and prayers because if it's anything like North Carolina experienced, FEMA ain't coming. That was just one. I couldn't even screenshot them all. They're just terrible. That was probably that was probably the most tame one. President Trump, meanwhile, going to be down here in Texas later this week. Has already mobilized and authorized FEMA. Peter, how am I going in the wrong direction here? I'm telling you what I'm seeing. There are people turning this into a political statement for no reason at all because they lack compassion and they lack decency and they lack humanity, Peter. And there are people in Victoria that have done this. It's infuriating, as Brian Small says. I'm not going in the wrong direction here. There are people going in the wrong direction. And I haven't seen it yet, but there's probably somebody on the right going, oh, God did this so Trump can prove that he's the savior that we all thought he was going to be. It's probably out there. Because if you got one on one extreme, the pendulum swings the other way, but I haven't seen that one. I've seen compassion. I've seen fear. I've seen concern from my friends. And I've also seen some real ugly stuff from people on Facebook who I'm thinking long and hard of still being acquainted with on Facebook because of the stuff they're either posting or sharing. And I don't silence people because I truly believe in free speech, but boy, there's some people that I don't think I can do it anymore.
Well, I know this is what you're saying, but this is not a time to be political. This is not a time to prove if you're right or wrong. No. It should be time to come together.
Yeah. There's nothing in the aftermath of this that's political.
That's right.
If you're going to blame this on Trump and Trump voters are getting exactly what they wanted, conservative voters are getting exactly what they asked for, you're despicable. That's where I'm going with this, Peter McNally. Because there's too many that are on the left side of this that aren't being compassionate and caring and doing what they can. For those that are, I pray for you. For those that are, I listened to a story this morning of a father who went up there whose kid was at the Camp Mystic. Went up there looking for his daughter and found the body of another. I can't even imagine that.
That's crazy. Yeah, just try to process that.
And then you hear the story of 2 kids 27 feet in a tree found by rescuers. Another woman clinging to a tree. Over the rushing water, some guy managed to hear her voice, said he wasn't sure, and then kept calling out and walked to where she was and managed to comfort her until rescuers could get there. These are the stories that need to be told. This is what needs to be told. This is what encourages people to hang on, to get through these sorts of things. Not these idiots telling people they're getting what they deserve because they voted a certain way. It's a good thing I'm on Magic because my language right now would probably not be very clean. This hit me harder than anything like this has ever hit me, and infuriated me more than I've ever been infuriated watching people respond to this garbage, or the way they've responded to this is pure garbage. But those that have come together, I commend you and thank you for doing that. There are lots of people that I'm friends with that just picked up and went. They don't know anybody there. They're helping their fellow Texans. Those are the people that need to be celebrated. Those are the ones that we need to be talking about. Small equipment operators that loaded up backhoes and grapplers and other equipment on the back of their trailers and drove it up there to help, to remove debris and clean up and help fight. Michelle Wasnaken says the story with the 2 girls found up the tree was false. I didn't hear that, Michelle. It was a good uplifting story. But I'm just amazed at how people have come together. In spite of all the BS on social media, you want to see the worst of social media? This is it. People call it social media. It's the most anti-social media ever. People will sit there and do things between each other on their phones when they're sitting next to each other, not being social. You got people trying to divide a country and a state during its worst time in recent memory. On social media. Be better. For those of you on the left that have been posting the things that I've seen, be better. Check your soul. Maybe go to church for the first time in forever. Or if you do, find a church that actually reaches you with a message. Take some of your hard-earned money and give it to the rescue efforts.
Do we need another break?
Yeah, let's take another break, and then we'll move on because we'll be talking about this for a while. Part of Vita Wellness, get in, get healthy today. Monday. I'm sure there's probably still something left in the freezer, but they'll have things freshly stocked today for meals. So I'm going to go in and grab some breakfast because I'm hungry this morning. The Vita Cafe open as well. Check them out on Main Nursery, or what is that? Nursery Drive, Spring Creek Boulevard. One of those. What's that? It's not Spring Creek Boulevard, is it? Nursery
South
Drive,
Spring
right?
Creek.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. USA Concrete Coatings for all your foundation repair needs. They are a division of USA Foundation Repair, but they can also make your drab slab transformational. You've got a pool deck that needs to be redone, give USA Concrete Coatings a call. They'll give you a price. They'll get it done. Now that the Astros have swept the Dodgers, a lot of Astros fans coming out of the woodwork again. All the bandwagon jumpers are back. They can drop an Astros logo in almost anywhere you want it. Veracruz Restaurant back open today after taking the weekend off, I think. Sometimes they close down in the summer. I'm going to have to make sure on that one. But I'm going to assume they're open today. First Day Bank Astros update. Astros sweep the Dodgers, destroyed them in game one, 18-1. Worst loss ever for the Dodgers at Dodger Stadium. I think the only only runs that the Dodgers have ever given up more at a home game was back when they played in Ebbets Field in Brooklyn when they lost 19-2. That was the opener of the series, and then the Astros went on to sweep the 3 games, winning yesterday 5-1. And taking on Cleveland, I believe, beginning tonight. At home, so the Astros got on the plane and came back home, taking on the Cleveland Guardians tonight. The Guardians not near as surprising as they were a year ago. Struggling in the American League Central, 40-48, their record. $15.5 games behind Detroit. Astros now with the third best record in the major leagues behind Detroit and the Dodgers. Astros remain 7 games up on Seattle in the American League West because Seattle has managed to keep pace. Good thing for the Mariners because they'd be 10 games back if not. But nice to see a lot of Astros just coming through. The guys that you're not expecting to get it done. Christian Walker, Yander Diaz, and Jose Altuve all homered in yesterday's game. Pitching was solid all weekend. Even Zach Short 3 for 3 yesterday out of the 9-hole batting, playing shortstop. So he's 4 for 6 in his limited time with the Astros since getting called up because of injuries. So, you know, for a team where everybody goes, they don't have enough prospects. They don't have enough in the farm system. Everybody they call up seems to manage to get it done. It's good to see. Elon Musk launched his own political party over the weekend, the America Party. The party has not yet been registered with the Federal Election Commission. Although I think it seems like it's going to happen. I don't know. Elon Musk says he's trying to challenge the dominant 2-party system. Is this country ready for more? I mean, I can't imagine where this would be. I would imagine more of a centrist party. I don't know. Let me find it. I sent a couple of things yesterday. Yeah, 15 Democrats, including several officials, a local judge, and a former rep candidate. A couple of mayors in Frio County, all indicted on vote harvesting scandal. All have been arrested. 15 officials indicted. Manuel Medina, the Texas State Tijuana Democrats chair, also involved, was recorded discussing a scheme to collect votes with the Frio County operator. Former Dilley mayor Marianne Obregon also indicted on 2 counts of vote harvesting. Former Pearsall mayor Petra Davina Trevino indicted as well on vote harvesting. You may recall back in May, Attorney General Ken Paxton announced the arrest of 6 individuals linked to this. Now it's up to 15. But election fraud doesn't happen, according to the left. I believe state indictments, Monty. Yeah, what are we looking at? The investigation goes back to 2022. After a candidate in a Democratic primary runoff filed a complaint, and San Antonio TV station KSAT reported on the complaint, and that launched the investigation. And here we are. 15 people have now been indicted and arrested on ballot harvesting schemes.
But we don't do that.
No, it doesn't happen. The apologists will come out. Nope. There's one already. Peter McNally, Monty Howard, very, very small communities. Tell that to the people in those communities who've now their votes were negated. The people they voted for were cheated out of the office. It's where it starts. Frio County Judge Rochelle Camacho, 3 counts of vote harvesting. I think she's the one that was the complaint originally. Former Frio County Elections Administrator, 1 count of tampering with or fabricating physical evidence. Pearsall City Council member, a count of vote harvesting. Another City Council member, 1 count of vote harvesting. Pearsall ISD trustee, 3 counts of vote harvesting. Your elected officials, not your elected officials, the elected officials in these communities, Pearsall, Frio County, they're in on it. I think Torrin, I think you meant that for Peter McNally, not Monty Howard. I'm liking the Astros right now. I think they're the best team in baseball. Aussie woman found guilty of adding poisonous mushrooms to a beef Wellington and serving it to her estranged husband's relatives at lunch, killing 3 of them. I think we talked about this when it first happened. Well, she's been found guilty. He declined to attend the lunch. Good thing for him. Cody, you get invited to a former girlfriend's family's lunch. Are you going?
No.
Why is the family showing up to her luncheon?
I don't know if you noticed, but I didn't even have to pause on that.
No, there was no pause.
It's a big no for me, dog.
What else happened? I think what's today? The 7th, the 9th, or Monday. So Wednesday, countries have 2 days now to get in line with tariffs or to request an extension. Anybody that's involved that is aligning themselves with the BRICS alliance, that's Brazil, China, India, Russia, will be punished more severely if you want to do business with those countries that we don't think are most favored nations. Stock markets didn't like that news early this morning. Early trading, they kind of a little bit lower. Real quick, Donald Trump last night signed a major disaster declaration for the Texas counties hit hardest by the floods. He will be here on Friday, he says. Over the weekend, the AAA says this was the heaviest traveled July 4th weekend ever of those traveling by vehicle. Gas prices were on a 4-year low. We haven't seen gas prices this low since President Trump's first term.
Mm-hmm. Ironic.
Yeah, isn't it? Funny how that happens.
I made the mistake of going in Buc-ee's in Wharton yesterday. Oh my gosh. It was 9 billion people in there.
Yeah. All trying to get back.
I was just wanting a restroom and a soda pop.
How'd that work out for you?
I got the restroom. I left before the soda pop.
Ozzy Osbourne appeared for the final time with Black Sabbath, of course, the band that he rose to fame with. Of course, he's had Parkinson's, been battling that for at least 5 years, if I remember correctly.
I believe you're correct on that.
I guess performed from a large throne that was adorned with a bat and skulls. Of course, he was arrested in San Antonio for peeing on the Alamo back in the day, but about 45,000 people turned out in Birmingham to watch him perform. Launched Black Sabbath back in 1968. And they've been around for like 56 years. That's crazy. I'm surprised he's still around. Bit the head off a bat that he thought was a fake bat when somebody threw it on stage. And then last night, a couple other things over the weekend, Joey Chestnut, 70.5 hot dogs over the weekend and buns to win his 17th Nathan's hot dog eating contest. Mickey Sudo, 833. She won her 11th women's title. And the CONCACAF Gold Cup soccer action yesterday. Mexico beat USA 2-1. Pretty heated affair at Energy Stadium in Houston. Mexico, I thought, outplayed the U.S. and came away with a 2-1 win. They went to video review on the winning goal late in the game. And Jurassic World Rebirth, $318 million at the global box office in its opening weekend. Lilo and Stitch crossed almost over, closing in on the 1 billion mark, 972 million in its 7-week run. I knew a lot of people waiting for this Jurassic World Rebirth movie over the weekend. 318 global. Remember when they used to just worry about the U.S. box office?
Right.
Now they worry about the global box office. That tells you people aren't quite getting to the movies in this country like they used to.
Yeah. Our theater just got upgraded. So if you want to go, now's a good time to go. Check it out.
Yeah. That's what I've heard. I've heard a few people that telling me that our theaters here are really nice now. So, well, we're there, folks. Top of the hour. Appreciate you joining me this morning. Pray for those affected in the Hill Country. Pray for those who are still missing loved ones. Pray for those who are searching for the missing. Pray for those who are spewing so much hatred towards those that have been affected by this tragedy. They need it maybe more than anybody else today. Thanks, folks. We'll see you all tomorrow. I'll be back. Bye, folks.
Threw my boss out the window and